we're really excited because we're joined by two recent program graduates, both from Commercial Investigations, Yvette and Caitlin. So Yvette, I'll hand it over to you if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everybody. My name is Yvette Austin. I am the managing investigator here at Commercial Investigations. Been with the company, just hit my 9-year anniversary. And so having a great time. And Caitlin is one of my lead in training, so I will let her say hello as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Waite. I'm a lead in training and a trainer here at Commercial Investigations. I specifically oversee the criminal research portion of the background investigations here, and I also help out with client customer service. So I've kind of dabbled in a lot of the research that we do here, and I've been with the company, I'll be 5 years this October. So it's exciting to be here. Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you. It's great to see everybody this morning. Thank you for choosing to show up and learn some with us and maybe get some inspiration from today's conversation. What we're going to be talking just a little bit about MPI to start, and then share some information about the importance of quantifying the impact of training and development. And then we're going to have a good Q&A session with you, Yvette and Caitlin, to talk about their experience going through a program together. So about MPI. So, those of you who don't know us, we're a consulting firm based in Albany, New York. Our purpose is to help the leaders we serve become more competent and confident so they and their businesses can thrive. We largely do that through the 3 pillars of strategy, culture, and leadership. And, I can see some of you on the call. We've worked with many of you on the call, so you're probably familiar with us. But what we're all about is helping businesses do better through helping the leaders of those businesses gain confidence and competence. So some key things to think about when we look at learning or leadership development and helping our people do better. We're going to be talking a lot about today a notion of the 1 + 1 = 3 effect. And what we mean by that is, for example, today you're going to be hearing from Yvette and Caitlin about, they're each one person that took a training program. And we believe when they do it in the same period of time and they get a common language of leadership across the 2 of them, that they can leverage that relationship and that common experience to get more than 1 + 1 = 2. They can get 1 + 1 = 3 or more. So you're going to hear a lot about that today. And then we grabbed some data from some recent Gallup surveys. One was about leaders learning to use their strengths. They're 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. They're 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life. And then when thinking about engagement within their teammates and themselves and their business unit, they often see benefits such as higher profitability, 23%, 81% lower absenteeism, 64% fewer safety incidents or accidents, and 18% higher productivity. So I think everybody on the phone can see that those things are highly valuable in business, and their outcomes achieved from choosing to train and develop your people and help them grow. And so those are the kinds of business benefits we're striving to help our customers realize through leadership development, training programs, coaching, peer groups, and the like. So before we get into Yvette and Caitlin, I just want to kind of give you the background. Yvette and Caitlin were both in our last cohort of public training programs that were held in the winter and spring of 2023. Yvette participated in our organizational leadership program, and Caitlin in our team leadership program. And we asked them to join us today because of their rich engagement in the programs, and we saw some unique benefits they might be seeing because they took different leveled programs, but at the same time. I hope you're going to see today in their responses to our questions in the conversation how they collectively have achieved a 1 + 1 = 3 effect. Let's get right into it. So I'm going to start by asking each of them to share, Yvette and Caitlin, what did each of you gain from the experience of participating in this public training program? And, what really resonated with you? What were some of the top things that resonated with you in the experience?
So I'll go first. So when I took the course, I have a leader team, or I'm a leader of a team of, well, at the time it was 4 employees. Obviously, everybody's struggling with hiring right now. I went from 4 down to 3 employees, and we suffered greatly when that 4th employee left. So we were looking for someone else to fill that gap. So in taking the leadership course, we had gone through a couple exercises, values and beliefs, strengths and weaknesses. I kind of pulled together everybody's responses of who was on my team at that point, figured out kind of where we were lacking and what we needed. And luckily that 4th person who we just hired on within the last 3 or 4 weeks has actually filled all those gaps. And we're actually like on top of our work right now. We're able to get our work out to our clients on time. Turnaround time has been a huge issue. And we're kind of finally like getting a grasp at where we were falling short. So I think those exercises were a great help to myself, my leadership team as well, my management who helped hire on and onboard that person. So I'm greatly thankful for that.
So for me, along with Caitlin, had done the strengths and weaknesses and values and beliefs with her team. I as well did those with, like I said, I have 4 lead-in trainings. So over the course of the past probably 18 months or so, we've been trying to separate into individual teams. So Caitlin's in charge of criminals. So I have 4 leads now, so 1 in charge of each team. And it was very exciting to do the strengths and weaknesses, to see, I look at it as all, 4 of them plus myself, we shouldn't have all of the same strengths. We shouldn't have all of the same weaknesses, because then we complement each other. But then the values and beliefs, I feel like we should have very similar. And so when we did that exercise together, that's exactly how it worked out. So we found that, we make a great team. And then we were able to go ahead and do the team effectiveness exercise, which at first, when I saw it, when we were taking the program, I was like, now I'm supposed to ask them to tell me what I need to improve upon. Do I really want to do that? But I was really excited to be able to do that with them. So they would tell me something that, they thought I did that brought strength to our team, and then something that I could improve on. And then I would ask them all the same. And the fact that we all felt comfortable enough to do it, nobody was hesitant to do it, that was a really great thing. So that was one of the best things that, I felt that we did as a group. It was really great. The other thing also that we started doing is we've had different meetings. So we've set up proper meetings. So one of the best ones, I already have meetings with my leads once a week, and we do training meetings and things like that. But each of the team leads has started now doing what we're calling a rapid rundown. So it's the 20-minute once a week, no more than 20 minutes, right? Start to finish with their own teams. And I think that's built a lot of great teamwork amongst each of the individual teams. They feel free to, speak and, talk about things that, are positives or things that we need to improve upon. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I find the rapid rundowns to be something that we needed. We just didn't know how to implement them. So putting them on the calendar every day of the week, or not every day, but once a week at the same time every day, has been very consistent in that we can figure out what happened from previous week to now. I kind of want my team to bring things to me. I know we talk regular throughout the day, but like usually it's like one-on-one. So like doing that in a group setting, other people are hearing what had come up, what issues had come up, kind of promoting like what goals you met if you had a successful contact with someone, or if you received praise from a court, something like that in regards to what we do for work, I think has been a great help, and people feel more comfortable and kind of trusting in that setting. So I think those are definitely something that we'll value moving forward.
Hey, could I ask you to, can you share a few things or one thing about, what have your colleagues and your teammates seen differently in you as a result of experiencing this training?
Definitely confidence and communication as well. And I think Caitlin would agree that her and I have improved upon our communication with one another so much. And it's very helpful to get, just make it through the day and plan for things ahead. And I think as well in our lead meetings, the communication between all of us, with Caitlin and I both kind of having a better way to get our point across and listening, not always my best skill, but I've gotten a lot better at, sitting back and like taking it all in first before, voicing my opinion or my suggestions and things like that. So those are two of the things that people have brought to my attention anyway. So
I wouldn't say we had poor communication before we took our leadership courses, but I think now we have a better understanding. At least I have a better understanding of kind of what's expected of me, how I need to communicate with Yvette to make sure that my team is up to par with where she needs to be for her management. And it's definitely more open, and I feel like I can explain what I need in terms of to get to my role in the correct spot. Better, and I communicate with our CEO, HR, president of our company. Like it's a world of a difference compared to 6 months ago when I first started doing this leadership, because I came up from being with my peers on the same level of everyone, so it was hard to differentiate being in a leadership role and trying to be respected by those peers. So kind of getting an understanding of how I can present myself as someone who you will be directly reporting to, but I also want to be someone you can come to at the same time. I think this is a good leadership course for someone who's looking to transition in that kind of way.
So having participated in both our personal and team leadership programs myself over my time at MPI, I know a lot of what we learn in those programs is obviously applicable at work, like we were just talking about with your meetings and communication and all of that, but it sort of translates outside of work as well into your personal life, or just some of those more like interpersonal relationships, even if maybe it's with your colleague or something who you're kind of friends with in and outside of work. So can you talk a little bit about how you've both applied what you've learned in the programs that you went through to do better in your respective roles, and if you have any examples of how it's impacted you in your personal life, if you feel comfortable sharing?
I'll go. Yeah, so again, I just feel like I've gained a lot of confidence when I was in the program, and I let Bruce know, at first I felt a little intimidated with the other classmates, I guess I would say, when I heard, what type of businesses they worked in and things like that. And so after just listening and going through the exercises, realizing that, everybody's kind of on the same level as far as trying to learn how to, coach their teams better and hiring and all sorts of different things. So just gaining that confidence and, being able to be here today, it wasn't something that I would have necessarily jumped right on when you guys reached out, but as soon as you guys did, I said, Caitlin, we are doing this. And so, the confidence level is definitely a thing. And, the interesting part is for me in my personal life, my youngest son, he's 27, but he is an entrepreneur and he just goes and does his thing. And he was living in Miami at the time when I was doing this, and just FaceTiming with him. And when he would come home to visit and stuff, his girlfriend actually told me, and then he told me afterwards, she's like, he just sees so much more confidence in you and he's so proud of you and all this sort of thing. So obviously it's, coming out that other people are kind of noticing it. So yeah, it's exciting for me.
I kind of fall on the same line. I've avoided public speaking classes in college. Like I never would voluntarily, I think, done something like this is a first for me. So although I'm nervous, I feel more comfortable than I did beforehand. I'm more comfortable in my work life and in my personal life, whether that be meeting new people that I've never met before. I'm able to have a conversation right out of the gate. I'm more confident in asking what I need from people now instead of kind of beating around the bush and avoiding it. I'm getting right to the point and asking it. So I think it's made a difference both professionally and personally.
And I can say in regards to Caitlin that I have noticed all of this, and like things like when, you know, maybe she has to email a response to a client, and in the past, you know, she would pretty much come to me, I don't know what to say, that kind of thing, right? And we'd kind of talk through it together and that sort of thing. And in recent months, she may still ask me to review it before she sends it out to make sure that, you know, she's hit all of the correct points. But they have been extremely well-written emails. And I'm just usually like, yep, that's good, you know? And so there's not as much, she has more confidence in what she's, you know, expressing to our clients and things like that. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, very nice. Well, good. So let me ask, how did this experience of participating in this training program energize or inspire you or help you to think differently about work and the impact that each of you have on the business?
Well, so one of the other things that I really learned from this was that I'm not just, you know, Caitlin's boss and the rest of my team's boss, but I'm, you know, I'm a person too. And I was very hesitant to kind of show that. So we did a lot of work in this course on showing your vulnerabilities, being vulnerable, so that people are comfortable coming to you and, you know, they feel safe talking to you and things like that. So I feel that, you know, I really learned that a lot through some of the exercises that I already spoke about. And then one of the other ones that I actually did with my lead team was the leadership stories. So I told them some stories, whether it was work related or personal related, and a lot of the things I would have never talked about before at work, probably. Like I just kind of keep certain things separate, but I feel like opening up and, you know, letting people see more of who I am on a personal level has really helped. So I have really been focusing on, you know, being more vulnerable and, you know, letting that show to my leads and the rest of my colleagues here. So.
Kind of along the same lines during our team effectiveness exercise, that was something that was brought to my attention, that I could be rigid and kind of have that protective shell, like breaking down that barrier and not completely separating work from professional life, but kind of integrating them, not to like full extent, but being and presenting yourself as a human being, which I have been working on that. And this past week, we actually had something come up that someone felt comfortable coming to me and telling me right out of the gate. And they appreciated that, and I appreciated them telling me that, and I reiterated that I want this to be a kind of safe space, and I want you to feel comfortable coming to me with any concerns or questions you have, and that's why I'm here. And I feel like that's the information that I gained from this course, is how to like approach those kind of hard and difficult conversations that can be something that people want to push under the rug, but should be had at some point. So that was a huge thing this week, honestly, surprisingly enough, because we had our webinar.
Yeah, when she told me about it, I'm like, your response was spot on. Like it was really, really good. So very proud.
Yeah, let me just ask you directly, Yvette, you know, you did share with us, you know, Yvette took our organizational leadership program, which we sometimes call our general management program, and where you learn things about marketing and sales and strategy and culture and leadership. And you shared something with us about how that affected you becoming more strategic, and you were able to contribute more in level 10. Could you share a few words about that?
Sure. So yeah, I transitioning into this role I was starting to learn different things about business strategy and planning and all of that. And partway through taking this course, I can't remember how far through, but I remember telling you guys that I was, just asked to be part of our, L10 team. So it couldn't have been at a more perfect time because we had just done some of the marketing exercises and going through those tools. And so when I was doing that portion of the program, I had all of these tools and I was like, I don't even know what any of this is. I'm not a numbers person. I don't get along well with numbers. And so some of it was kind of intimidating, but I went and spoke with one of my colleagues who handles marketing for us. And he sat down and spent some time with me and we went through them. And I actually learned a lot from him. And I was like, boy, you know a lot. He knew a lot about some of the tools. So that was very enlightening and very helpful to me. And, going forward now, I've been participating in, our L10 meetings. I had my first offsite. And so that was a really good start, get me prepared for that. So it was perfect timing.
So our webinar today was all about seeing and feeling the impact of training, whether it's, in this case, we're talking about MPI's public programs, but this applies to any type of learning and development training that you may go through. So kind of going back to what Bruce had shared earlier about that 1 + 1 = 3 effect, about, sort of leveraging the power of your learning. Obviously, you both went through a learning experience on your own and you work very closely together, so you can see kind of how to apply some of these things together. But can you share maybe how you shared some of the ideas or things that you were learning in the programs that you went through with other colleagues who maybe didn't go through training, whether they've never gone through these programs or just weren't going through them at the time that you both were?
Yeah, so I will say that probably I know Bruce, Michelle, like probably if you talk to Michelle or Paul or Jocelyn here, they'd all say, when I got out of these sessions, I was like going on and on about all of these different things. Like I had so many ideas and all sorts of things. So I made sure that I was letting all of my staff know. We talked about a lot of things in the lead meetings. We did a lot of the exercises in the lead meetings. And then it was so great to see that a lot of my leads did it with their teams as well. And while we were doing, I think it was while we were taking the program, we had actually gone and done something that we hadn't ever done before. And we were interviewing to fill one of the lead and training roles as an external hire. We've always promoted from within. So, I was very nervous about doing it, but I finally was like, I need somebody to lead that team. And so this is what we're going to do. So we did several interviews and we finally decided to choose the person we did based off of mostly a culture fit, right? So that was one of the tools that we had. And I'm very much a people person. So all of that types of things, more so than, the numbers things, like really sunk in with me. So we ended up hiring someone based off of more of a culture fit. And I have to say, I have never been happier in my life. She's amazing and fits in so well with our current colleagues. And that was a huge thing. And then just recently, we decided we were going to hire a salesperson. And when my leaders had come up with some interviewing questions, they asked me to look them over. And first thing I thought of was that culture fit tool. And so I whipped it out of my notebook and I looked at the stuff that was on that and compared it to the questions that they were asking me to look at. And so I went to Jocelyn, who she's our office manager, but she does human resources as well. And I'm like, can we talk about this a little bit? And, so I had given her some ideas of things that I thought we should ask if we were going to bring on this salesperson. So we talked about it as a group, and we did end up kind of tweaking some of the questions or adding one or two. And we just hired a new salesperson who's going to start Monday. So I was pretty excited about that. So yeah, I love that culture fit tool.
Yeah. The lead that we hired on she's helped us tremendously. And I think she fits in well with the 3 other leads, including myself, who have been here for some time. We were kind of hesitant, like, how do you get someone to jump into the role, get them up to speed to what's expected of them at the same time, but also have them manage, I don't even know how many people she's managing right now, but she's managing like at least 10 or if not more. And she's just done phenomenally. So I think that tool was a great enhancer to what we were looking for, to have someone fill that role, which has been a tremendous help. I know at the end of like each of our sessions or modules each week, they sometimes had webinars or TED Talks that you guys recommended us to listen to. Here we have a webinar watch log, we call, that we recommend all the employees here to kind of watch a video a month, whether that be something about our company or something to help them in their professional growth kind of here. So we have implemented some of those videos that I got from our trainings to have everybody watch, and we have them check mark it off and what date they're watching it, just to ensure that we're keeping everybody kind of up to speed on what we're learning and that they can also learn and contribute from. So I think that was awesome.
Those are great examples.
All right, so we talked earlier about this notion of 1 + 1 = 3, and you've shared a little bit about this, but could you expand on it and how going through this experience together, meaning you both went through leadership development together, you took different courses, yes, but as you saw, there was a lot of common elements across those programs. And can you share with everybody here how this learning helped you, the 2 of you, work better together?
A lot. Like I mentioned before, we weren't poor communicators, but I think at least I didn't understand how we should be working together to make sure that I was getting my work done and that Yvette was meeting her goals of getting my work done, kind of thing. I have a very clear understanding of what's expected of me, and I have a clear understanding of what's expected to push down to my team to make sure my goals are being met, so that in turn Yvette's goals are being met, whether that be in hiring or whether that be in turnaround time or anything like that. I'm able to clearly communicate to Yvette where my team would be falling short or where I need resources to kind of elevate that kind of thing. I'm comfortable coming to her if I have any concerns or comments. I'm comfortable pushing back on her as well at the same time. If I don't agree with something, I think we're at a good point where we can agree to disagree and communicate clearly to get to a point where we can come to an agreement. So some differences have been made for sure.
Very true, very true. Yes. So Caitlin, yeah, she was very quiet. And when I took over, supervising her, she did a great job work-wise. I didn't have to worry about her work getting done, anything like that. And it's just been amazing to see the growth where we can communicate really well with each other. And again, I can share my expectations, and she's not afraid to question anything that I might say if she had other thoughts or, if she didn't agree, if she had other suggestions. In the past, I feel like she probably kept them more to herself. And I will say, like, she rarely got out of her chair and came down to my area. And now she comes down to see me quite often, which is great because it's that constant communication that helps us, really work well together. And I don't mind like that constant interaction because, I feel like the more you can figure out like as you're going and get good answers to, then you can just keep moving on instead of like, I don't know, make a list and, save it and talk to me at the end of the week kind of thing, because then it doesn't necessarily have the same impact. So yeah, it's been really great the way we can talk, and it means a lot to me that she interacts as much as she is currently, and not just with her own team and with myself, but with the other teams. And even though they all have, leads in charge of them, she certainly helps out and is a great resource. And people come to her a lot more often and are confident in the answers that she's going to give. And she's very polite and kind and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been so good. I'm not just saying that either. It's a true story.
So I think Caitlin and Yvette, you had some questions for us that we want to make sure we reserve time for before we get into our audience questions. So we will kind of hand the floor over to you to ask those for us.
I have two, so I'll do one and then Yvette can do hers. Who do you recommend to take this course? Whether it be my course or whether that be Yvette's course, is there like a certain criteria that you think people should have to take that?
Yeah, so we have 3 levels of programs. So Caitlin, you took team leadership, and we recommend that people who take that, it's best for people who are already leading a team, but we've had many people who are getting ready to lead a team because it is focused on people who have direct reports or who will soon have direct reports. So that's team leadership. We also have a program called personal leadership, which is for individual contributors. And people who are potentially leading through influence in their organization. And so that's a great program for new employees or individual contributors who want to get some development. And then the highest level program which is what Yvette took, is our organizational leadership program. That's largely geared towards people who are kind of directors and above, who are being looked to help drive the business, right? We provide a good, strong, fundamental understanding of all the major functions of business: marketing, sales, finance, strategy, culture, leadership, and so on. So, our organizational leadership is largely for leaders of leaders who are targeted towards potentially maybe leading a division of the business. Or maybe potentially, targeted to be on the executive team of a business.
Yeah, so that kind of answered most of what my question was about. I was curious of what other levels you had, because I'm trying to figure out, because obviously we've talked about, I have 3 other lead in trainings currently working. So I'm just trying to get a gauge on, when would be the best time for the rest of them to potentially take the course, and would it be the similar one, the same one that Caitlin took? So
yeah, I think so. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about this in a minute, but when you have groups of employees going through these things together, you gain a stronger common language of leadership, is what we call it at MPI. You get a common set of terminology you use, you have a common set of tools. And even if you take the different level programs, there's a number of common tools used throughout all 3 programs. All 3 of them do values, beliefs, strengths, and weaknesses, for example. So it just creates a great synergy across different, like levels of leadership and different levels of leadership. When you've got a number of employees who experience the same thing, you can really leverage the power of that in an organization.
yeah, so that's really all I was trying to figure out. So maybe you'll see some of my colleagues in the very near future joining a class, because yeah, we gained a lot from it, a lot. And I think that, our external hire that I was mentioning about in the lead role, she commented to me that, she really appreciated, the fact that I let them kind of run their own team and kind of step back. And that wasn't a thing that I would have normally done in the past, because I don't know if Caitlin would say it out loud, but kind of a control freak. So So yeah, so the fact that Lori, noticed that and commented on that, I feel like, oh, I must be doing better at that, kind of letting them, she's like, you guide us, but you don't like tell us what to do. So I kind of let them go along and suggest things and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to be excited to be able to get some of the rest of them hopefully involved in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because I think we see an abundance of leaders who have, admit that they have to learn to let go and not to have the propensity to micromanage. And we often do it because we want things to be done well and done right and done on time. But the vast majority of the time, our people appreciate it when we're given the autonomy to figure it out on our own. And we know that you trust us to figure it out on our own and even give us grace if we don't actually do it the best the first time. Those are tremendous learning moments, is when we get a chance to figure it out on our own and do it. It may not get the best results the first time, but you gave us an opportunity to figure it out. And that's great opportunity for growth.
And one thing I will point out is that in the past, Caitlin would have never sat next to me like this and said micromanaging, talking about me.
Learning and we're growing, right?
Well, that's healthy, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're healthier in our conversation with each other, and we're getting things out in the open in a kind, respectful, professional way, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So Bruce, I know during my training course, I had a lot of people within my course, comparative vet. And a lot of people said that they were referred to by their supervisors or their managers to take the course. And we had a couple people who were within the same company taking it at the same time. Do you see often multi-level employees being referred back and taking the course at the same time, or?
Yeah, I mean, one of our biggest sources of students is people like you who say, I really enjoyed that. I need to recommend, either colleagues of mine or direct reports of mine, sometimes even my boss to go, because what the experience is like, and you're a lot more credible sharing the value of it than, MPI can, we can say whatever we want to say, and it's just more believable when it comes from actual participants. We do know this is very rich material that the vast majority of people who take it say this was great, but it's important that we get that word out to people so they know that it's available. The price is very reasonable, and the return on it is often very high. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is to expose more and more people to the value of doing something like this as an individual and together as a team.
Well, and what I'd like to say too is to both Rachel and Bruce, like you guys made it, you made everybody feel really comfortable. That's one thing that helped me out a lot. Like at the beginning of the session, Bruce would usually ask us a question and, we would tell about like our favorite vacation or something like that. So it was kind of like little icebreakers each time. And so, for this type of a class or a program, I thought that was really important, that we were made to feel comfortable. Plus it was fun and like interactive. It wasn't just like being told stuff or, certainly we had, homework to do when we were done, but it was more of an engaging, program when we were on the live sessions. And so that I would thank you guys for. That was great.
All right. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, so I got a good one that came directly just to me in the chat about what you had shared around hiring for a culture fit. And the question was around wanting you to explain how you got your colleagues to think differently, assuming that maybe that was a new idea that you were sharing around hiring maybe more for a culture fit and less on like their past experience, or that they've served in a similar role. How were you able to use what you learned in the organizational leadership program specifically to help your colleagues think differently to feel comfortable enough to hire that person on?
Yeah, so I guess I would say, I have always thought that it's easier to teach like the work as opposed to how to be a leader or how to inspire people and things like that, more personality traits. But I didn't really know how to bring that to light. And then going through this course, I was like, well, this definitely reinforces what I thought, because first of all, if I learned how to do the work when I'm terrible with, technology and stuff like that, and I am doing very well because I'm more of just a people person. So that stuff is important to me. So this just kind of brought all of that to light. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this really is a thing. And so I just talked about it a lot, probably. Bruce had recommended, because I asked a question at one point in one of the sessions, and he had recommended reading the book, The Ideal Team Player. And I was looking for some help with like interviewing questions, like how do I get to these right people, that would be more of a fit and more towards our company values and things like that. So that book was really a great book. I actually asked my office manager to read it. My president read it. I'm actually hosting a book club on that book, Bruce. I forgot to tell you that. So some of us host book clubs, and so I'm going to be hosting a book club using that book coming up in October. So it just became more of a thing as we talked about it in the session. And I'm like, we really have to do something with this, So we revamped our interview questions more based on, who we thought would be a good culture fit. And generally, 3 of us will sit in on an interview. And I remember Bruce saying, like, it's either all or nothing. Like, there shouldn't be any, because sometimes we'd be like, well, 2 people were like, yeah, and then one person was like, no. And I remember him saying that there should be no question. Like, if you know what you're looking for and you're all on the same page, you should all be like, yes, or you should all be no. And I think that we've been making that work. So, yeah, we've been definitely talking about it a lot. We've been doing a lot of interviewing. So we've been using these new questions. And I have to say, we have hired a lot of people recently. And it's amazing to see how well everybody seems to, they interact really well together. And I'm just like, this is so great. Like, what is happening? So yeah, just talking about it. And then I think people seeing that we have such a great group right now, and everybody is just respectful of one another and kind and so helpful, right? And willing to help train and do different things. And so, yeah, it's been really easy to get people to kind of go along with that, right?
So the other question I see out there is around your communication. So that's something that came up quite a bit, is just improved communication. Can you share, maybe both of you, as a more tangible example of how your communication has improved with one another, and one of maybe the takeaways from the program, or a tool, or just something that kind of ties back to your learnings that have helped you get there?
So during our rapid rundowns, I mentioned that we did the values and beliefs, strengths and weaknesses exercise. We also did the DISC assessment, the communication DISC assessment. I printed out the form, the page that you guys handed out during the session, and I was like, take a look at this. When we meet next week, I kind of want you to just explain to me what kind of communicator you think you are. And they honestly enjoyed it a lot. Some of them fell within one or the other. One was one only, and they asked me what I was, and we kind of like went off each other. And I think we all fell in the same kind of communication queue. we're very strong communicators, but we're also people who listen to each other and want to hear what other people have to bring to the table. So I thought that was a great tool that I used for my team. And I've also recommended it to the other leads to bring that to their rapid rundowns as well, to try and gauge what kind of communicators they have within their team as well.
Yeah, and I think for Caitlin and I, so when when we were both taking it, her session was like at 1 in the afternoon, and mine was like later in the day. And so once I got done with mine, or the next day, we would just chat about, what we were talking about. And a lot of the things were similar. Some of the tools were the same. So we just kind of like chatted about that. Like, this is what we talked about, and we just had interaction that way. And I think just doing that every 2 weeks, every time we had a session, we kind of like shared with each other like what we took away from it that particular day and things like that. And then as we were doing some of the exercises, I would bring my sheet over to Caitlin and be like, did you do this one? And yeah, we would kind of talk about it. And so, yeah, it's just us interacting about the course, the 2 courses that we were doing, just made us talk more. And I think that was a really big help too. It wasn't anything specific that we were like, okay, we have to start communicating better, but we just talked more and interacted and shared more things. And yeah, I think that's been a big part
And it's
of
been noticeable. Our VP has commented on it. HR has commented on it as well. Everybody knew we were taking the course. We made it very clear. It was on the calendar. Everybody knew what days we were away and you couldn't talk to us, kind of thing. And I think people were more interested in what we were taking away from it. And our VP, Paul, he commented saying that we both have much wider eyes for opportunities here. We're coming up with fresh ideas, bringing ideas to the table, and we're kind of leading at a newer level in a very noticeable way. So that was great to hear feedback from him on that.
Yeah. Jocelyn, our office manager as well, she's commented. She sits near me, so she's commented a lot as well about the noticeable difference she's seen in our communications and confidence level and things like that. So that's kind of fun when you have people noticing these things that maybe you don't even
notice yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to say, and I know I can speak on behalf of Bruce as well, thank you, Yvette and Caitlin, so much for sharing, obviously, your time with us, but really going out of your comfort zone and speaking in front of our audience and being willing to share your takeaways and ideas and just how you've been able to implement what you've learned. Obviously, it's a really big thing to even just take the time for yourself to go through a program like this and, be introspective and kind of, what you had said earlier about around asking for feedback and maybe hearing things you don't want to hear. You took it another step further and are willing to share that with other people. So we are really grateful for that. And I know I have some takeaways from our conversation, but Bruce, I'll let you kick us off. What are you taking away from our conversation with Yvette and Caitlin today?
Well, one of the biggest things I want to point back to is this notion of 1 + 1 = 3. And for those of you who are watching this and listening, whether you're considering joining one of our programs or are encouraging people of yours, employees of yours, to participate in our programs, think thoughtfully about the power of having multi-level leaders in programs at the same time, like Yvette and Caitlin did, because you can really you can leverage that to get, it's much more powerful than doing it at separate times. But it's even helpful to have, 2 or more at the same level of leadership take something together, because they can work off each other and use each other as accountability partners. And you're building a common language of leadership in your organization when you put people through programs that where they have common experiences. They'll gain common terminology. They'll have a common set of tools, and it leads to having common expectations of each other, which leads to higher productivity and effectiveness and less confusion, less wonder, and so on. So that's one of my big takeaways. How about you, Rachel?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is just the conversation around applying what you've learned. Something that we say, and I've heard you say a lot, Bruce, in trainings, whether it's our public programs, workshops, anything leadership development related, is like the learning is just the first step. So, kudos to you for taking the time and effort to, sit in the class or do the online work or, fill out your worksheets in the workbook. But like, really the change happens whenever you're actually using it. And both of you are examples of not only using what you've learned, but also sharing it with your teams or your colleagues or your boss or other people in your organization so that they can, see the power of obviously going through a learning experience, but also just start to maybe make some changes in themselves or be inspired by what you did and want to read the book that you recommend or watch the video that you recommend and just kind of start getting in that mindset. So that's my biggest takeaway, is just the power of not only like going through the learning experience yourself, but really applying and sharing what you've learned, kind of going back to the topic today, which is seeing and feeling, the power of training and development. So.
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce that with, at MPI, again, what we want to do is increase the confidence and competence of the leaders we serve. And you heard Yvette and Caitlin talk about how their confidence rose dramatically. Mm-hmm. And that came from gaining competence in areas that were important to them. But also we do that in service of helping they and their businesses thrive. And, they both mentioned like two tangible business benefits they're seeing from this. One was, they feel very strongly their retention is going to be higher, which is very important to most businesses today, right? But I think, Yvette, you mentioned cycle times improved, right? So that's important to your business. When when your cycle times are faster, you're serving your customers better, they're going to be happier with you, and they'll, ultimately that leads to a higher potential that they will do more work with you or they'll refer someone else to you. So we're really starting to be much more thoughtful and I would say intentional about asking our customers, when you choose to put people in programs like this, what are you going to look for in them, in your company to be better because they did it, right? So when we heard Yvette and Caitlin talk, the cycle time was one business benefit that was improved because of this experience. So think ahead of time, what tangible metrics that would you like to see happen because you had people go through, a program together? Could you expect to see fewer complaints, right? Could you expect to see fewer errors? Could you expect to see people, getting stuff done faster and with less effort? Which leads to higher capacity to do strategic work. All of these things are benefits that you could and should be able to expect because your people went through this. And not enough companies today are actually looking for things to be better as a result of these investments. And we're starting to be much more diligent in encouraging our customers to actually look for the better things to happen. You've heard the term, what gets measured is what gets done. To start thinking about measuring the impact of the investment in people development, right? So that's just something I wanted to close with because it points right back to the title of our session today, is seeing and feeling the impact of experiencing leadership development.
Yeah, so thank you everyone who joined. Our session was recorded in full today, so you'll be receiving a copy of the recording. We encourage you to connect with Yvette and Caitlin and learn more about commercial investigations if you're interested. And Bruce and I continue to be here as resources for you if you have any questions about a learning experience or a training experience with MPI, whether that's the public programs that Yvette and Caitlin went through or any of our other workshops that we offer. So with that, we thank you for sharing your time with us today, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.